Our belief about our identity is intrinsically tied to our worth and our value. And so on this episode, I want to go deeper into our time, our talent, and our treasure and see why we give it away so easily and how can we reclaim it and reclaim our own worth. So stick around for this episode of Unleash Your Audacious Confidence. Welcome to Unleash Your Audacious Confidence on Win-Win Women TV. This show is all about sharing the tips, tools, and techniques that will allow you to step boldly in the direction of your dreams despite your feelings, fears, or past failures, to imagine what's possible for yourself and live the life you deserve. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Unleash Your Audacious Confidence here on Win-Win Women TV. I'm your host, Alicia Couri. And all right, so I did mention last week that we're looking for a new home for our show because Win-Win Women TV is sadly sunsetting this side of their operations, and they are going into more leadership training. And so I am sad, but also hopeful that as we shift the show, it's bringing new opportunities for us. So we have this month of April, and then we're going to take a short break to reconfigure everything because we won't be going live anymore. And then we'll be back. So looking forward to that. So if you want to connect with me and make sure you have the up-to-date information on where we are and what we're doing, make sure to go to redcarpetceo.com and get on our mailing list. But also you can go to alicia360.com and follow me. Okay. This show topic. Whew, whew, whew. I was prepping for the show today, and I have like 3 pages of notes that I don't even know we're going to get to, because remember, this is part 2 of last week's show about worth and value. I mean, this could be a topic for the rest of the year, to be honest with you. And we're talking about your time, your talent, and your treasure. And just today, I saw 2 videos that impacted me after I wrote like a dissertation on what I wanted to talk about on the show. So if I don't get to everything today, we're going to be continuing this show. Who knows how long, but next week I know I have a guest, so we won't be talking about it next week, but possibly closing out the month with it. But I saw 2 videos and I posted them to my stories. One was Megan Good talking about being paid what she's worth and how she didn't even know how to ask for that. She didn't even know what to ask for. She didn't know how to when she was asked what she wanted, she said she didn't know what to say. She didn't know what to ask. That's big, because our worth, like I said in the intro, is intrinsically tied, our value and our worth. And it's tied to our treasure. It's tied to how much we charge, how much we give away. It's tied to all of that. And then the second video was about women. It seemed like it was a college campus of women in the audience. And she asked how many of them have either been sexually assaulted or know someone close to them, a family, a close friend that's been sexually assaulted. And I have to say, probably 98% of that room stood up. And then the second question she asked is to stay standing if it was reported. and the majority of that room sat down. So not only was there such an alarming rate on that college campus of women who have been sexually assaulted in their, or they know someone who's been sexually assaulted, but they've also not reported the assault. That is directly tied to our worth and our value, because we don't think that anyone would believe us if we reported it. We have to prove that it was. And there are all these parameters that say, well, you were asking for it. Look at how you were dressed, or look at this, or look at that, that puts the victim, that blames the victim for being assaulted. And that degrades and erodes our self-worth. And it's serendipitous, because what I was thinking of early this morning when I wrote all these notes was our image, our body image, how we feel about ourselves is also tied to our self-worth. And it bleeds into every area of our life. So it bleeds into business. So let me start talking about my notes for a second and what I was talking about, because for me as a woman, so I'm talking here as a woman, right? I can't talk as a man, I'm talking as a woman. My body image was something that I struggled with for a long time in my life. And I just want to take you back a little bit, because I did talk a little bit about this during my TEDx talk, but I want to go a little bit deeper that I couldn't talk about during my TEDx. Again, we're talking about our time, our talent, and our treasure, right? And it started for me with my self-image, about who I was. So it started way back in childhood when I was 3 years old. Even before then, my self-image was tied to my self-worth, and my body image was tied to my self-worth. And I had so many negative impacts when it came to my body image. So I'm going to start with my body. And you can let me know if this is you too, okay? Because I think even though our circumstances are different, our emotions, our experiences are universal. They resonate. So I was always quite thin. I have an athletic build. I ran around a lot. I rode bicycles. I rollerbladed, roller skated. In my day, it was skates. It was four-wheel skates. Jumped rope. I was just very active, very athletic until about 14. That's when I really started developing breasts. And so my breasts developed quite quickly. Again, if you watch my TEDx, I talk about this, but my breasts developed quite quickly. And I went from a 0 to like a D cup in just a couple of years, and then double D, triple D. But when it came to my, my sports activities, my computer is trying to do some crazy things right now. But when it came to my sports activities, because we never had like a sports bra, I couldn't be as athletic as I used to be. Like I couldn't jump around, run around, do all those things as I used to. And I still kept my thin frame, but now I was like 90 pounds, 86 pounds, 86, somewhere between 86 and 90, 96 pounds between 14 and 17, with essentially D cup size breasts. I had a 23-inch waist, like I was 32, 23, 34. Those were my statistics. Well, I was very ashamed of that, because now I had attention that I didn't want. And I had attention from men, and I didn't know how to be in my own body, be in my own skin. So So I want to put a pin in that. Think about that. And I want to rewind and go even further back. Because when I talk about my worth and my value, in school, from the time I started school, I was different and I didn't understand my difference. I was not like, I tried, but especially when I got into high school, it became more and more apparent that I was in over my head. And most of my life, the words that I heard about me, and I grew up in the Caribbean, and Caribbean, parents are Caribbean parents. And so I heard a lot these words: you're worthless, you're good for nothing, dunce, stupid. Let me see, I have it in my notes. Lazy, good for nothing, worthless, you'll never amount to anything. So I heard those words over and over and over again. Parents, teachers, those were the things that were implanted into my subconscious of my identity, that I was unruly, all those things. So coupling my thoughts of myself with this body that I have now, it became very difficult for me to find value in myself and my worth, because I didn't think I was good for anything, right? I didn't believe I was good for anything. Because I did not do well in school, I believe I went undiagnosed with dyslexia and dyscalculia, which is dyslexia with numbers, because formulas and numbers were very hard for me. When I saw them, they jumbled up for me. I couldn't remember sequences of numbers. I couldn't spell well. I would write something. I could read and I could write, but reading took me more time to read. And so that's where, the stupidity part was coming in, because I had so many challenges reading, writing. So I felt stupid. And that's where they told me I was lazy, because my sister, bless her heart, she was a straight A student. My brother, who was younger than me, also an A student. And here I am in the middle, struggling. Two parents who are very intelligent, very intellectual, very good with numbers, and I'm struggling. And nobody was willing to really sit down and find out what was the issue with me. It was, you're not trying hard enough, you're too lazy, you're not. So eventually I just gave up and I said, well, you know what? I guess that's what I am. That's who I am. That's what I am. I'm giving all that backstory to share that when I opened this up, I talked about the 2 videos that I saw. I struggle with my worth when it comes to pricing myself or standing up for what I deserve or what I even believed, because I didn't believe I deserved anything, but valuing myself for pricing. And I struggled because when I was younger, men took advantage of me. Well, I guess, yeah, took advantage of me. And I was one of those that was date raped and said nothing, because the person that did that was a friend of a friend, and I didn't want him to get into trouble. See how that works? Because I didn't want him to get into trouble, because it was my friend's friend. Nothing about me. How was I doing? How did I feel? What was my body going through after that? I did not value that. So what I want to share about worth and value are 3 things. And then we're going to use the same action guide that we had last week for ACT, A-C-T. So I'm going to have you identify these 3 things. Number 1, are you a people pleaser? Which means you'll do anything for anyone. Like I used to bend myself into a pretzel to accommodate someone so that they don't get inconvenienced. Didn't matter how inconvenienced I was. I would wait for someone for 30, 45 minutes when we're late, and I hate being late, but I would bend myself into a pretzel. I was such a people pleaser. So if you find that you're a people pleaser, if you find yourself going around doing things to accommodate so someone else doesn't get upset, or so that, and they have no worries about making you late or doing or what you had to go through. If you're a people pleaser, that's one way that you're devaluing your time, your talent, and your treasure. See, the brokenness that's inside of us, it comes into our adulthood with us, and it shows up in the way we parent our children, the way we lead organizations, the way we're peers with one another, and how we look at and lead our teams. That brokenness needs to be addressed. So if you find that you're a people pleaser, and I mean, I people pleased with the best of them. I was so inconvenienced and so devalued my own time, my talent, and my treasure by giving it away to people who didn't value it. Remember last week I said, if you don't value it, no one else will, or they'll put a value on it that's lower than what you value it. That happened to me in so many times. But I was a part of an organization that was it was very important to me. Very important to me. It was something that I gave my heart and soul to. And one of the leaders of that organization took advantage of me because I was so willing to do anything to help, and took something that I charged for, my talent that I was charging for, and abused it. Would have me come and do stuff, well, that talent was makeup and hair. So I had my own business for makeup and hair. We went on site and we did red carpet events. We did television. We did weddings. We did social events. And this particular leader had me doing things for her without any compensation, without regard for my time. But I gave that away, right? I gave it away. I did not value it myself. So she was able to take advantage of that because I didn't value it. So remember, I talk about the A in your action guide being accountability. I'm not saying she took advantage of me because she's such a horrible person and that's what no, I did not value it. And I allowed that to happen to me. I'm taking accountability for it because I didn't value it. I didn't value my time, my talent, or my treasure where that's concerned. I was a people pleaser. What's the second thing you need to look out for? When you don't understand the value of your talent. So let's just go back a second. The value of your time, right? Let's just put that one into perspective. You have one life. Every click of that second hand is gone. You're never going to get that back. So when I would wait around for people for hours and hours and hours, I was devaluing my own time that I was never getting back. Every click of that second hand is time you're not going to get back. How are you valuing that? Death is a breath away. 1 minute you could be alive, and the next minute you could be gone. You go in a breath. How are you valuing that time? And are you allowing someone else to steal that time from you? Are you taking accountability with your time? When you have clarity about your time, that's the C in ACT. When you have clarity, you don't give your time away like that anymore. You don't waste it. You value it. So the second thing is not understanding your talent. I would do pretty much, anything that I was asked to do because I could figure it out. I'm smart enough, I could figure stuff out. And I do. And I figure things out. That's a talent. I have the talent for figuring things out. You give me a problem and I'm not afraid to jump in, experiment, and fail and do it again and try. And that's a real talent. And for a long time, I didn't value that. So when I was in school and people said to me that I was dumb or stupid because I was a CD student, sometimes F, and then when I started to realize that I learned differently, because I had a teacher that taught me differently, that took the time. I had two teachers that took the time, paid attention, and taught me in a way that I learned. I went from a C, D, F student to an A, B student because I learned differently. And they recognized that. My parents, my other teachers, they didn't see that. And I'm not blaming my parents at all. Please don't. I love my parents dearly. They they did what they were taught, what they experienced. They didn't know differently. And so, when you know better, you do better. And so I don't blame them at all. I take responsibility from the minute that I realized, wait a second, I am not stupid. I'm not dumb. I can get A's. I can learn. And understanding that, I began to value my ability to read and understand and break it down into its simplest forms and be able to communicate that with other people. So that's something I had a talent for. I never realized that was something that I could charge for. That's a talent. I did not recognize my talent and my gifts, and I call them your tags, your talents, your assets, your gifts, and your skills. I didn't realize my talent for doing hair and makeup. Like I can see something and I know where I want to go with it, and I will keep playing with it and experimenting with it until I get there. Like, I'm touching my hair only because, my hair is still like 4 months new, this hair. And I'm every chance I get, I'm tweaking the formulation of how I can do my hair and how can I get my curls to curl a little bit more, or how can I lengthen them out, or, like I'm always experimenting with it. That's a talent. And I used to give that away. And even now, as people are asking me and they're seeing the shift in what I'm doing with my hair or my makeup or something like that, and they ask about it, I get to choose who I give this to. I choose. I don't just give it away willy-nilly. I choose if it's something that I'm going to charge for or something I'm going to bless someone with. And that's where you have to get to, by understanding your talent and understanding what you can do with it or what you should do with it. And then finally, your treasure. Well, your treasure is not just your own money. Sometimes we give away our money because someone comes to us with a sad story, or they and this is where I gave away a lot of my talent, and my treasure is in the sad stories, but also when you're not charging what you're worth, you're giving away your treasure. I had a client once, and again, believing in the sad story. And then I realized she was the one that really made me realize how, when I don't value my talent and my treasure, nobody else will. She really helped me understand this. Again, taking accountability, because I used to say she beat me down on price. She really, uh, laid it on thick about how much money she's spending and how much this thing is costing. And it was an event for her daughter, and there were like 3 events, and then they had to do photos and the photo shoot, and they had to do this, and then it was the day of the event, and we had to do hair and makeup for this and all this stuff. So I had to drive an hour to her house every time they were doing these things. Literally, I basically paid her for me to do all these different services, because the money that she was paying me didn't really even cover my gas, really. And I did not value my talent. I did not value my time, and I did not value my treasure. I gave it away to her. And what was the last straw was the day of the event. I had someone working with me who I had to pay, so I paid her. And I drove back. I had another event to go to, so I did everything I had to do with her, drove back. And when I was almost at the other event that I had to do, I got a phone call from her asking me if I can come back because someone in the family thought that the contouring that I did, they didn't like it, and they took a wet thing and rubbed it off, and they don't know how to fix it. And if I could drive an hour back to fix it. And I was like, no, no. I just, drove all that way to you, spent 4 hours at your house doing hair and makeup for everybody there with someone, and then I'm an hour away, and now you're telling me to come back and fix. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You weren't paying me enough to even be there in the first place. But that was me. I gave that away. I gave it to her. I allowed her to fully take advantage of my time, my talent, and my treasure. I don't do that anymore, by the way. Not just the hair and makeup, but I don't give away that for anybody, that talent. So when you start really valuing your time, your talent, and your treasure by using our ACT framework, because the last part of the ACT, right? The first part is accountability. You have to take accountability for your own actions in any situation where you found that you gave your stuff away, gave away your value and your worth. Then you have to build clarity around it. And the way to build clarity is by reflecting on it and reframing it. See, I reframed my parents. I don't blame them. And I reflected on my behavior as a child. I took accountability for that, for not doing my work in school because nobody would listen. But I took accountability for that. Yeah, I could have found other ways to make things work, but I gave up. I did. And then once I got clarity on what my value really is and what I can do and what those talents that I have that I can offer, things began to shift for me. And the final part of that formula, ACT, is your trust, self-trust. See, because my identity, my belief was wrapped up in this person that was lazy, unruly, uncontrollable. What were all the other words I said? Good for nothing, worthless. I did not trust who I was, and I did not trust that I could be counted on. That's why I people pleased so badly. That's why I bent over backwards, because I lacked self-trust. So I needed everyone else around me to trust me, for me to show up in a way that made them have reliance on me, because I didn't trust myself. And the hardest part of trusting myself was trusting myself not to be taken advantage of, because I had recognized so much of my life I was. And I had to learn how to trust my no and be able to stand in that no, in the power of that no, and not allow other people to take advantage of or misuse my worth and my value, misuse my time, my talent, or my treasure. I had to build my own trust in myself to say, nope, we're not doing that again. No excuses, without having to justify or explain, just be able to say no. Just be able to say, you know what? I'm not available for that. I'm not available that day. If you want to soften it and not just say flat out no, I'm not available. I have a bandwidth issue. Those are nice ways to say it. I have a bandwidth issue right now. I just don't have I don't have the energy, the time, or the space to accommodate that right now. So I want you to go to redcarpetceo.com, download our action guide. It's the ACT action guide, ACT, accountability, clarity, trust, and start building up your own self-worth and your value. And you can go check out some of our other action guides that help us to reflect, reframe, and rebuild. Because when you can reflect, reframe, and rebuild, then you can act in a more powerful way. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of Unleash Your Audacious Confidence. We will be seeing you again next week. And for now, this is Alicia Couri saying to be bold, be brave, and every day do one thing, only one thing, to step out with audacious confidence. Because as James Clear in Atomic Habits says, it's one tiny move at a time. So do one thing to step out and prove your confidence to yourself. I'll see you next time. Bye. Turnover. It's incredibly expensive for any organization, but especially those that are small and mid-size. If you're an organization and you're hiring, it's so important to get it right. You need to identify the right people for the right roles. Here at Audacious Concepts, Inc., we help you perfect your hiring process so you get it right every single time. Reach out to us at audaciousconceptsinc.com